6 o'clock, and I'm going to call the meeting to order, the meeting of the Wellfleet Board of Selectmen, Tuesday, April 9th, 2019, at 6 p.m. We will start with announcements, open session, and public comments. And to start it off, if you don't know, we are having, I don't know if it's a celebration for Jerry, a celebration of Jerry Lee. No, we are honoring Jerry Houck, our longtime selectman and friend. And we're all going to have a little celebration. Mary, are you involved in that celebration? There you go. Oh, okay. So we're going to have a little piece of cake. And this ends the open session announcement and public comments, because we're just going to have a little cake with Jerry and say thank you for his service. And it's been good. Up we go.
Let them eat cake.
Yes. Okay, so does everyone have cake? Who wants cake? So you can continue eating, and we'll now open it up to, again, brief announcements and comments, but we cannot, the public comments must be brief, so I'll read this for your information. Public comments must be brief. The board will not deliberate or vote on any matter raised solely during announcements and public comments. Okay, so are there any public comments?
May I make a couple?
Yes.
So
Yes,
this
you
is
may.
what the warrant should look like. Some of you received a warrant that is missing some pages. So if you have received a warrant that is missing some pages due to a printer error, we have corrected copies here at Town Hall. You can also send an email to the Town Administrator's office and we will mail you a copy. We think out of about 2,800, 2,900 warrants that about 100 may have defective copies. So please let us know. We'll get you a copy, or you can stop by Town Hall. Absentee ballots are now available for the 2019 annual town election in the town clerk's office. They are available until 5 p.m. on Friday, April 26th. If you want to receive a ballot by mail, go on the town's website and you can fill out an application there and submit it to the town clerk's office. And then I wanted to tell everyone that Amnesty Day is on April 27th, 2019 from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'll have information on that on the town's website. You'll look for a flyer like this around the town. But again, Amnesty Day is April 27th, 2019. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Katsunas. Is that how you say your name? Cartoonist. Should be on. You just have to talk right into it. No. Oh, it's not on. Okay.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes.
Good evening to the board, and thank you for allowing me to speak. Congratulations to Mr. Houck. My name is John Kartsunas, a Wellfleet resident and homeowner. My wife Lorena and I are sponsors of petitioned Article 43, which we had hoped would be placed on tonight's agenda for discussion, and more importantly, to inform and educate the residents regarding Article 43. Unfortunately, that did not happen. My hope here tonight is to ask that the Select Board change its opinion and recommend for Article 43, which reads as follows: to see if the town will vote to direct the Board of Selectmen to place the following question on the next election ballot. Shall the town of Wellfleet, Massachusetts, petition the General Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the Congress of the United States for greater local control to mitigate the growing Cape Cod seal overpopulation problem, as well as the expanding and menacing great white shark problem? Our goal is to place Article 43 as a question on the next town election ballot and give our residents an opportunity to vote yes and empower you, our local town officials, to petition our state and federal representatives for support and financial help to make our beaches safe again to swim in, and to keep our economy strong and growing. Save our beaches, save our economy. The two go together hand in hand. Thank you, and I look forward to working with the town to make our beaches safe again. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm hoping you will be at the forum that discusses town warrant articles, and that is Wednesday, the 18th. No, the
Tuesday
10th
the
is
16th.
Tuesday the 16th at here. And unfortunately, we cannot tonight vote to recommend or unrecommend or anything because it's not on the agenda. So it's always got to be on the agenda. And just for all of you people who want to get on the agenda anytime, is our agenda closes Friday morning before our meeting, maybe like at 10 or 12. Is there a particular time? 12, 10. But it's really, if you really want to be on the agenda anytime, you should ask well before, like a week before, anytime. We're always, we have to be open to it. But it might just be, too, that if we're discussing town warrant articles or something, or it's very full, then we might postpone it. But in the future, just call Courtney.
Madam Chair, yeah, there is an application on the town
that's
website to apply to be on the board's agenda, or you can go to Town Hall and come see me on the second floor
Yeah,
and fill it out.
good. Thank you. Chief Facette.
Yes, just a couple quick things, just to let the board know. FEMA, for the March 2018 storm, the paperwork is done, so we have signed the contract. We're looking to get approximately $15,000 back for our cost in responding to that storm and things like that. So we're hopeful we can get...
What storm was it?
This is the March storm in 2018 when we
Yeah,
had the
last
flooding
year.
of the
Okay,
pier.
so a year later,
we
yeah,
had a lot of-
okay.
So we did well and things like that. It may take a few years for the money to come in. So also we have is a traffic alert. Route 6 at Cumberland Farms, they're looking to start the water project. So we're going to be doing some boring under Route 6 in 2 different spots. We'll be setting 2 fire hydrants, and they'll be running a channel along Route 6. Route 6 will remain open for the project. We may close it for a temporary time to move equipment in and out of the road, but it will remain open. Cahoon Hollow Road may be directional for a day as they set up for directional drilling there, but we've already told them about town elections coming up, so we won't be interfering with that on that particular day.
And when is that starting?
They'll be starting this coming Monday, expected to last 2 to 3 weeks. So we'll have detail officers out there help directing traffic around the work site.
Okay, great, thank
And
you.
the last time I have for you is Telecommunicators Week begins Sunday, and we just want to give a thanks to all our dispatchers. They're the ones that are behind the scene over the radio who are providing us the assistance, answering the phones. So Telecommunicators Week begins on Sunday and it lasts a week. So we just want to give a shout out to our dispatchers. They do a phenomenal job. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, Janet. Janet?
Hold on.
Just when you're ready, I just want you to remember that I'm going
Right,
to say something.
okay. Yes,
Chief Facette, can you tell me when NSTAR will be finished replacing the poles in the center of Wellfleet?
I don't know, actually. They've been working with the state police and running the project, so we have no direct contact with them on this. I know that they are looking to do cutting to put the Eversource all the way to the back of the town hall parking lot, that I think you guys are going to be acting on shortly for that, but I don't know that project.
Well, several corners and intersections in town have been almost impassable due to this work.
I can look into
I'd
it,
like
talk
to
to
have
my
it over
contact.
sooner than later.
I'll reach out to my contact and see if they can give me some sort of direction on what's going
All
on.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
and, yep, Mr. Elkin?
Dick Elkin, Wellfleet Community Forum. 2 things I'd like to announce. One is that tomorrow at the library at 7 o'clock, we're going to have a full and frank and friendly discussion of the article about the land purchase for the Hilda Trust. And then next week, as you've already mentioned, on the 16th at 7 p.m. in this room, we're going to have the pre-town meeting. Where again we will talk about all the articles, and Danny Silverman will be the moderator of that. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll have an announcement from,
Nope.
okay, go, sorry.
First
You're
of
all messed
all, I would like to thank my daughter for this wonderful cake, and for John Ryerson for helping out. My wife is here tonight. My son and his son, my grandson, came down from Holliston, and another grandson of mine is here who's from Orleans from my last night. But my announcement is on April 15th from 4 to 7 at the Fresh Restaurant in South Wellfleet is having a Alzheimer's fundraiser, and they're going to be, it's not an auction, it'll be a raffle. It's $35 a person, and there's going to be a lot of wonderful raffle prizes. I'll just name a couple. It'll be Finizzi's in Provincetown, Nappy's in Provincetown, and the Lobster Pot. Also the bookstore, restaurant in Wellfleet. And there are other things such as jewelry and local artwork and the marketplace and the spirits shop. So it's going to be a wonderful fundraiser. They actually give money to people who have partners who have Alzheimer's, so they might be able to attend Eastham or bring in a home health aide to help out. And it's a wonderful organization, and I hope that some of you who are here would support it and be there from 4 to 7 on April 15th. So that's about all I have to say, and I want to thank everyone in this room for a lot of you I know, and for your kindness over these 20 years, and I want to thank the board. I've actually served with some very good boards in the past, and being the only male on this board, it's been a wonderful experience, and I appreciate every one of these ladies that are up here, and I thank them.
Well, we thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Thank you.
And now another wonderful lady on a different board has something for you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Jerry, when I read in the paper that tonight was going to be your last meeting, and read about your 19 years of continuous service, I believe 6 years prior to this, maybe 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s spread out of service, 25 years of service on the Board of Selectmen to this community. And on a personal note, a close personal friend of mine, I think the fact that one of your last announcements on the board was about what people can do to help others speaks volumes about who you are as a person, as a man, and a member of this community. You have been not only a friend, but a mentor to me. When I was just this unknown gal from Provincetown, you and Mary both could not have exhibited more kindness to me. So I don't tell the police, but I drove like a bat out of hell to get down here tonight. And wanted to be here to bring you a citation from the Massachusetts House recognizing your service here on the Board of Selectmen. And it's important for me to be able to give this to you, but more important is my heartfelt thanks and my gratitude, and really the awe that I hold for the work that you have done for this community and really the greater Outer Cape community and the Cape Cod community. So I do have this official citation where the Massachusetts House of Representatives offers its sincerest congratulations to Jerry Houck in recognition of your 25 years of service on the Wellfleet Board of Selectmen and your commitment and dedication to the community. The entire membership extends its very best wishes and expresses the hope for future good fortune and continued success. And hopefully you'll get to read a few books and novels now too, right? In all your future endeavors, given this 9th day of April 2019. So Jerry, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you, Sarah. It's quite an honor, and it's an honor to have you present it to me, because I think you've been,
Yeah.
since my term on the Board of Selectmen and being here, I think you have been the finest representative that we've ever had.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thank you to Sarah. Okay, I think we should just adjourn. It's really nice, so, good words said. Okay, so moving on to appointments and reappointments, we have for the Cultural Council, Al Mueller. Would you like to come up either to that mic or to the table? Is kind of nice because then the TV can see you better. Yes, and tell us why you want to be on the Cultural Council.
Well, I have been living full-time in Wellfleet since 2012. We built our house here in 2020, I mean in 2000. And having retired from federal service, I am, interested in contributing some time to worthy causes in town. And I was approached by a neighbor of mine, Janet Himowitz, who is on the Cultural Committee, and she said that there are some, areas where I might be of assistance, and so I said fine. So that's basically.
Okay.
I've attended a few Cultural Committee meetings. I've done some work already in terms of the constant content website, and it's not particularly taxing, work.
For you, it's not. Good. Any questions or comments from the board? From the audience? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to appoint Al Mueller to the Cultural Council for a 3-year term to expire June 30th, 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for starting your service. Okay, and next we have an appointment of Tracy Berry Hunt to the Bike and Walkways Committee.
And Madam Chair,
Yes.
I will be recusing myself for a small business relationship with the.
Okay, thank you. Go there. Hi. And would you like to tell us why you want to be on the Bike and Walkways Committee?
Okay, I've served on another committee in Wellfleet. I had a wonderful experience on the recycling committee. I'm currently on the board of the Friends of the Wellfleet Library, and I've been privy to a number of heated discussions at the Wellfleet Elementary Playground about bike issues, and seeing as my family, my extended family, my brothers, my children, myself, we use the rail trail extensively. I thought it was a good opportunity to sort of get more information, participate, engage, and see what I can do to help evaluate biking and walkway usage in Wellfleet. In the Attergate.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, don't forget to get sworn in before you go to your first meeting.
Oh, yeah, did we tell Al that?
Well, I
too?
already
Oh, yeah.
told him at
Okay.
another time, yeah.
Justina?
Do you have a particular opinion on the bike trail issues?
I honestly have only really started to delve into the information within the last 3 weeks. This has
So
all
do
been.
you feel you can be impartial?
I do, because I don't have. I mean, my greatest point of contact is personal usage. I don't, and particularly it's I think for the welfare of my children and children in the community. I think it's pretty frustrating that I don't personally allow my children to bicycle in the community 5 months of the year. And that's really more a testimony to culturally where we're at with texting and distracted driving. And so I think I can be impartial. I do have a close friend who's on the committee, and I told them openly that I tend to be opinionated but very fastidious in the work that I do, and then detail-driven and evaluating information. So
Right, because it shouldn't become an advocacy committee
no, I
on
think
one partial viewpoint.
Well, I think that's why I took the opportunity to join. I certainly don't have any vested interest in sort of advocating for somebody else on somebody else's behalf. So if I can offer a different viewpoint, and I think my track record on the recycling committee and the people I've worked with would attest to that I tend to evaluate things from many different angles and bring in information. So
Okay.
Great, thanks.
Any other questions, comments from the board, from the audience? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to appoint Tracy Barry Hunt to the Bike and Walkways Committee for a 3-year term to expire June 30th,
Second.
2022.
Sorry. Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you, and thank you for volunteering and helping
I
out.
hope I can
It's
help.
Great. Thank you. Now we have the appointment of Janet Morrissey to the ZBA, Zoning Board of Appeals.
Good evening.
How are you? And would you like to tell us why you want to be on the Zoning Board of Appeals?
Well, I think you all know me. I've previously served 5.5 years.
Yeah, pull
on
the mic up a little
Sorry,
more,
previously served 5.5 years on the Wellfleet Planning Board. 2 of those years as vice chair. During that time, I helped write a number of zoning bylaws, and so I'm very familiar with Wellfleet zoning bylaws and the state statutes, and those skills translate very well to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I think I'd be useful there, and I'm hoping you'll appoint me.
So I think it'll be a great match. Any comments or questions from the board?
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, if Roger wants her, I'll want her. So,
I'd like to make a comment as Roger Putnam. I'm chairman of the Board of Appeals. And Jan Morrissey brings unique experience to the board, having served on the planning board, as she's told you, for a number of years. Also, the ZBA is a very collegial board, and we expect to make use of her talents, even though she will be an alternate for a while. We expect to make use of her talents directly and immediately, because all members of our board participate in every meeting. I hope you will appoint her. We look forward to having her with us.
Thank you. Any comments from, Kathleen? Okay.
I'm going to use this opportunity to get up on a soapbox, and I'll try and be brief. I've known Jan and John since they moved to Wellfleet. Jan's husband, John Morrissey, is a former selectman whose initial work really pushed the residential tax exemption and also pay-as-you-throw. He's just retired as being our fearless leader from the community garden, which is outside these doors. But since I've known these 2 individuals, and I was on the Wellfleet Community Forum at the time, I've seen them both get involved in the town in some very controversial but progressive issues that have made a difference. So I want to reach out to the greater audience and say, since I've been a selectman, the one biggest thing that I've learned sitting at this table is it's that these boards and committees get the work done and give me the information I need to make decisions. It's the hierarchy of how business gets done in a municipal government, and it's impressive. You're going to see on this town meeting warrant some very exciting, progressive initiatives for the town of Wellfleet. And we need to thank these boards and committees for the work that they've done in getting them to us. So if anyone out there has some free time or some expertise that they could lend to a board or a committee, see Jeannie Mack on the 2nd floor of Town Hall, try and coax her effervescent personality to the forefront, and fill out an application. We really could use your help. But Jan, I think you're going to be rock solid for the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I'm glad you're getting back in the game.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else? Anyone else? So, may I have a motion?
Okay. I move to appoint Janet Morrissey to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a 2-year term to expire June 30th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
I want to just say goodbye to my kids.
Yes, yeah, take your time. Okay, good. So we'll move on because I don't think this will be a controversial subject. We next have the approval for the use of Baker's Field by the Wellfleet PTA on May 25th, 2019. This is for our ever-popular, what's it called? Wellfleet Fest. What's it called? Westfest. So it's a great fair, gym, bounce house fundraiser for the PTA. I don't see anybody here to speak on it, so if there's any...
Charity Robinson can't be here.
Okay. I think most people know. If anybody has any questions, anybody have any questions about giving them that permission?
No, they do this every year.
Yeah. Okay, so unless the board has some comments, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the use of Baker's Field by the Wellfleet PTA on May 25th, 2019, with a rain date of May 26th from 7 a.m. to 4 p.m., subject to the conditions, if any, as listed on the application form for a fee of nothing.
Blank.
For
a fee of blank. Second?
All in favor? Thank you.
And there are conditions,
Yeah.
and so I trust that Charity will be given those conditions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to use of town pier by Independence House. Is anyone here from Independence House? Good, thank you. Do you want to just come up and explain what you're going to do for our audience and the TV? Yeah, either one, yeah. Actually, I'm going to start. It's really nice because it's on TV and that's where the cameras are. So if you came up either that one or the table, people can hear you better and see you better. Good. Thank
Hi
you.
there, my name is Cheryl Kroll. I work for Independence House. Independence House, for those of you who don't know, is an agency that provides services to survivors of domestic and sexual violence. This is our 40th year. We have an office in Hyannis, Orleans, Falmouth, and Provincetown hours. We provide counseling services. We do community education. We're in the schools. We have a shelter. I run the court advocacy program. We have done this event before, 5 years ago, at the Wellfleet Square Dance. We set up an informational table and are just there to answer questions for the public. So that's what we're hoping to do again.
Great. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay. Any from the audience? Okay, thank you. And hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to approve the use of the town pier by Independence House on July 31st, 2019, with a rain date of August 7th from 7 to 9 p.m., subject to the conditions, if any, as listed on the application form for a fee of blank.
Second.
All in favor? Good, thank you.
Thank you.
And hope you have good results, and thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you again.
Okay, moving on to business, we have the first marijuana host community agreement for Nature's Alternative. And this is for a change of address. Yeah. They've already been here before. Hello.
Good evening. My name is Ben Zender, and I'm here with Nick Salvador, who's the Secretary and Treasurer of Nature's Alternative, Inc. And we had previously negotiated and obtained from the town a host community agreement for a location in South Wellfleet. And I think we were talking about that earlier when I was here at the South Wellfleet General Store. But that location, for a number of reasons, didn't come to fruition with Nature's Alternative in terms of lease negotiations. And so they've entered into an agreement for location at the Dunkin' Donuts building. And so we've presented to the town a request to amend that hosted community agreement to change the address of the location. And I've presented with the application through Mr. Horta a proposed amendment. Nick is here to answer any questions you might have. about the operation, about its staff, about its personnel, and I can answer any questions about the location. I hope I can, but we'll do our best. So thank
Okay.
you for hearing us.
No problem, thank you. I was going to say, Helen's not looking, so you're up, Justina.
I'm a little confused because when you came in the last time to...
Speak into the mic, please.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
When you came in the last time to talk about wanting to get out of the lease at South Wellfleet General Store, it wasn't presented to us that you were going to be getting another lease. It was presented to us that the lease would be being taken over by Natural Ventures, and that they had gone through you, Ben, to take over the lease. So I think that could have been made, could have been said to us.
I haven't been before the board. The last time I was in front of this board was to request a host community agreement. My only interaction since that time was at the time that the subsequent lessee of the general store came forward. I had a request from both Mr. Powers and also from the attorney for that lessee to clarify to the town that we were no longer under contract in that location, and I advanced that information just to allow the board to understand that and move forward. But I haven't been before this board for any reason since the host community agreement was approved.
Didn't you come in to say that they no longer wanted to lease?
No, it was through a letter.
It was through a letter, so it wasn't you. It was the Nature's. It was the new people.
The new people had an attorney. His name was John Kenny.
Because these marijuana host agreements are piling up, and I know that you don't live in Wellfleet anymore, but I'm sure if you had kids in this town, and we're also, for our tourism economy, we're a family-friendly town.
Well, I do have children in this town. I have a 19-year-old
still
daughter. I have a 19-year-old daughter who lives in this town.
So, I mean, it wasn't your fault. I guess my memory's wrong, and it was the other people that came in and said, now we have that lease. So my problem is with them, the lack of clarity, but then they got given a host agreement. So.
Okay, thank you. Kathleen?
Mr. Zender, it appears that this corporate group is under complete reorg. This individual before us tonight is someone we have not met.
Right.
And I'm not going to approve a change of address until I see the complete CEOs of this particular company come before us again, because it doesn't look the same as the first group that we met.
Well,
Am I correct in that thinking?
Well, no, Mr. Salvador is here as the Secretary and Treasurer. You can't bring every officer every night. So
we met the...
you met the CEO, David Miller.
Yeah.
The last time. This time, Nick came down because he was available. If you want, we can provide you with a structured chart of the operation of the business.
I want to make sure it's the same group of people.
Okay.
It's been that length of time, so I think that's a fair request.
Would you like to have Mr. Salvador explain to you the structure of the company?
No, I'm aware of the structure of the company. Yeah, I just want to see the individuals.
So let me make sure I'm clear. Do you want me to bring down every person who's associated with Nature's Alternative so that you can
I would
meet
like
with
the
them?
first group that came into us for the South Wellfleet General Store to appear yet again to the Board of Selectmen to request a change of address. I want to make sure that it's the same individuals that we saw 14 months ago.
So you want me to bring the security chief in that came and testified
That's
before?
correct.
Okay.
Helen?
I understand Kathleen's concerns, and I'm going to ask a follow-up question.
Sure.
Has the corporation, as a corporation, changed hands?
I'll let Nick answer that. Do you mind, Nick?
No, we brought in some funding that has brought a few more parties in, but Dave still works on it, the security guys still work on it, I work on it with him. I'm just more of an operational person.
And the CEOs have changed or not?
The CEO changed to Andrew or Matthew Medeiros. Dave stepped down from his role, but he still works with the company and has an interest in this company.
So it's simply a personnel change?
Yeah, we're just restructuring, basically.
The structure, the personnel arrangement may have changed, but the corporation has not been sold to another business.
No. Correct.
And with respect for Kathleen's concerns, I'm more interested in the commitment that I get in the document than I am in who you choose to have working for you, because I feel that the commitment in the document, whoever is in charge of the corporation, is what we have to look at. So I also think it's a better location than some others. So I would, having thought about what Kathleen said, I feel okay about the change of address. Given that you have said that the corporation has not been sold to another business, and it's, in fact, as it was, just with a change in personnel.
Yeah, and if I may, the host community agreement is really not an examination of the location. You know, whether or not a location is appropriate in the town is really a function of zoning, and the Zoning Board of Appeals will go through a special permit process. The host community agreement under Chapter 94G is really, it's a relationship between the community and an organization, and you have to feel comfortable as the board that the company has the financial wherewithal to comply with its commitments in the host community agreement, that the officers and the directors and the people involved are people that you think are of good caliber, and these questions you're asking, I think, are appropriate questions. However, what we're before you tonight is not for an approval of a host community agreement. That's already been done. We're really asking that the reference in the host community agreement to the location be changed to the new location. So we'll certainly do whatever you want. We'll bring in whomever you want, and we'll come down, and I'll bring, if you want me to bring as many officers or directors or operational personnel as you want, we'll do that. And maybe if through Dan you want to identify to me who you want to see. If you want to see the exact same people from last time, I'll bring David Miller and I'll bring Mitch. I can't remember his last name. The security professional down. I'll bring him down. I mean,
Okay, well, I think before, so that's clear that this is just for a change of address tonight, right? Everybody knows that. So clarifying it for the audience, that I do understand everyone's concerns that if there is any change in the corporations, in the officers that were in the host agreement, that before the next step, we see the names and the change. And Justina has something to say.
Yeah, I would say by the time this earlier in the game, I don't know the details of why you pulled out of your location, plus a new CEO, plus you said something about new funding, that there's flux already there. And I'd like to know what our rights are as a board to reconsider the host agreement. We have a lot of people wanting these agreements, and I think the last time that your person, I don't know if it's a new CEO now, I asked him how much you expected to make from this location, and he said $5 million a year. I'm not sure why you would back out of a lease that was so lucrative.
Oh, maybe I can explain that to you. The way that this functions, and this will take a little bit of time, and I'm sorry for anybody who's waiting to get up. You come into a town as an operator, and you identify, first thing you do is you identify a community that's available to be operated in. Some towns don't permit it at all. Then the second thing you do is you look at the zoning districts and the code, and you try to identify available locations within permitted districts that you can then go forward with permitting. And that narrows down the number of locations significantly. And then you have to look at those locations and determine whether or not they actually are going to receive a lot of opposition from neighbors, for example, whether there are traffic issues, whether there are other issues from a permitting standpoint. And then you have to negotiate with the landlord. And the way that you negotiate with the landlord is you don't just sign a lease. What you do is you sign an option, because you don't know if you're going to be able to permit that. So you sign an option, and that option gives you a certain amount of time to explore your permitting. In South Wellfleet, because this was the first one that we were doing, the permitting the host community agreement took a long time. And so what happens is those options come to an expiration. And then when you get to the expiration of that option, then you're negotiating again with the landlord. But this time you're closer. You have a host community agreement. And people's ideas of what the properties are worth change. And so now you have a landlord that's saying, now I think my property is worth X. And you only think the property is worth Y. And by the way, another location may be available. This is a process that is not born of any deceit or ability to work the system. It's a process it's a new process, and it's happening in every single town. By the same token, funding for these companies is in flux, because as locations become available or not available, people want to invest in them or not invest in them. So what you're seeing here, and you're not seeing all of it, and I understand that, and you will never see all of it, and I won't see all of it, But it's just that that location, because of that relationship, the landlord wanted more money. And the new landlord, and frankly, the location that we're looking at, we think is a better location. So switching locations is not, I don't think it affects any significant change in the relationship with the town. So,
No, but what about the new CEO?
So this is what I suggest, is that to keep moving on, they do have to come back before us. They also have to come back, they have to go before the ZBA, they have to do more steps. So again, this tonight is just for a change of address.
Yes.
And I think you're aware that if there are new people, or since there are new people that are in charge, that it would be good to see their names on the host agreement, on the new host agreement, which we're not going to have to vote on again, but just to update it, or even on the contract.
I think I agree with you.
Okay, so it's still Nature's Alternative, right?
There's no change in the corporation. There's no. The only thing that's changing
Or
is
addresses.
And throughout the history, and I hope it's a long history of Nature Alternatives' relationship with Wellfleet, there are going to be changes in CEOs. There are going to be changes in security companies. There are going to have to be. Every company of any size has certain changes in personnel. This is not.
Are there going to be a yearly change in CEO?
I can't tell you that, Justine. All I'm saying is that this is a business that's completely in flux. There are going to be changes in who's paying attention to which operations where. So we have an obligation under the host agreement to keep the town informed of who's in charge, and we'll continue to comply with that.
Yeah.
We're not asking the town. We're just asking to change the location of the host agreement at this point.
And we have an obligation to the town to know who we're licensing.
Absolutely.
And you know that. So that's
agree.
really what
I
we're
agree.
asking for.
I agree.
Kathleen?
Yeah, we're not really here to question your host agreement. There was some question about the individuals that are now being called Nature's Alternative, and we want to know who we're doing business with.
Of course.
We realize this is a change of address, simple administrative change of address. And thank you for explaining the whole process, because we do know how it works too.
Well, I didn't make any assumptions. So
Yeah, thank you.
Any more? Yep, Helen?
Yeah, this is, I understand the concerns of the people at the other end of the table in the same way that when, for example, the liquor store or one of the other businesses changes managers, they have to come before us. I'm not sure if under the strange web of laws having to do with dispensaries for marijuana, the same kind of thing is required. It would be interesting to find out.
I think so when it comes to
I can
licensing.
explain
Because,
that.
hold
Yeah.
on, because
Yeah, why don't-
licensing is so different for every different kind of business. It's a nightmare.
I can explain that if the chair wants.
That's-
What's different about the liquor? There's some. You're aware of the Cannabis Control Commission, the CCC. It's a state agency. It's just gotten up and running. They've established regulations. They're really modeled after the ABCC. That's really what they started with for a model. But there's one critical difference, which is that with alcohol, you are the licensing authority. People come before you and they submit a complete license that you can look at that identifies the shareholders, the leaseholders, the property holders, how much money is being borrowed, how much repairs are being done. You make that first approval, and then it goes to the ABCC for background checks and some other things, and then it gets approved. In this case, what they've done is they've separated that function, and the state is the licensing agency. So the applicant, Nature's Alternative, goes to the CCC for a state license for whatever the operation is, whether it's cultivation or marketing or manufacturing or retail or medical, whatever it is. So you're not really in as a part of that process. I can tell you, it's even more involved and more detail-oriented, and the background checks are more significant, and the information is they delve much deeper into this because of the other factors that are involved here. The cash business. There's a lot of reasons why you need to take a good hard look at it. So you don't get that information, but under the 94G and the host community agreement, we have an obligation, and under the agreement itself, to keep you informed of who the officers are, who the principal players are, and we'll do that. Whether you want to make a request tonight or whether you want to make a request through Dan, we'll comply with that request. But I still would like you to vote on the address change if you could.
Yes. I think we would like that information before the next step. We'll vote on the
Okay.
address change, but, and
Understood.
that's kind of obvious. I mean, when you present to the Cannabis Commission, they're going to ask who the names are and everything too. So that's, and there is extensive checks on that. All right, are there any questions or comments from the audience? Yes, you have to come up to the microphone and state your name.
Good evening. Tim Sayre. My question is, you said that you got new funding. Is the funding debt service, or is the debt a portion of the, did you give a portion of the control of the business to the debt servicers? And are the debt servicers out of Boca Raton, Florida, or somewhere in Florida that's the conglomerate that's up here in Massachusetts?
It's a loan, and they are. Oh, sorry. It's a loan, and they're Truro residents. It's a family trust, and they have no operational control.
Thank you.
Say that again. It's a loan in the what? I just didn't hear the word.
They're not from Boca. They're residents of Truro.
Oh,
and
okay.
they don't have any
That's what I
operational
thought you
control of
said.
the business.
Truro's going into the corporation business. Well, we'll want their names too. Okay. Yes, I always forget your name. I'm sorry.
This is Amy Wolf.
Okay. Yeah.
So this is a recreational.
And talking to the.
It's a recreational facility, right?
Yes, it is.
So I think that'll make 5 now in Wellfleet for.
It will be 5 applications, and so just to clarify, just because we have approved, we are approving 5. We may approve we may approve 5 applications.
We have
host agreements.
3 that have been approved for a host community agreement. Item B on your agenda would be the 4th to a host community agreement. And then we have the old bank building
That's right.
coming back on May 14th, which would be the 5th.
So, yes, so just wanted to clarify that.
And I thought there was discussion at the last meeting about that perhaps you were going to put on the agenda for tonight about putting limits on numbers, and I didn't know.
So we didn't put that on the agenda, and I know that, so these applications still have a huge process to go through. I mean, really, Jan worked on this. The marijuana dispensary bylaw or state regulation is 40, 50 pages long. You have to really jump through hoops, and not everyone gets that far. So if we approve 5 to 10, we want to, but if we prove a lot, it may mean that they still have to get
Yes, I didn't
vetted
know if it
to
was
see
gonna
that.
be on the agenda ever for.
It's not.
a
You got to like call or email us when you want to find out what's going to be on the agenda, because I know you were here last time until like 10 o'clock at night or something. So we have discussed that. We mentioned it last time, but we have not discussed it or made any decisions about putting a limit or an amount. By state law, you have to have 20% of liquor stores.
And we're at 20%.
Yep. Bye, guys.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
So
But
before.
we're not going to discuss that, right? We're just going to make a motion?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
All right.
Moving on.
Okay.
Yeah. I move to approve the change of address on the host community agreement with Nature's Alternative from 1446 State Highway to 2393 State Highway.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
I'm abstaining.
And so 1 opposed, 1 abstain.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, if I may, I have an original copy of the signed host agreement that I'd like to just give to Mr. Hort. If you
Okay, certainly.
Okay. And thank you all for your time. as
Thank
always.
you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. And next we have
Thanks, Ben.
the Grateful Mind.
Madam
Host-
Chair.
Oh, what?
So, just to clarify and go over again what the town administrator said, we have so far approved 3 host community agreements.
Yes.
And if you remember our careful discussion before we put that article on the last town meeting about being able to limit things, before we approve any more host agreements, right, I think we should have another discussion about that. Because I look forward to, hearing from the presenter about this. But I really think that we should make a decision about this and not do it kind of, okay, you can go, but you can't go.
Okay, I get what you're saying, because we did discuss this very briefly last meeting. So are you saying not to have the next applicant come up?
Well, I wouldn't mind hearing from the next applicant, but I really hope that this board, we need to really think about this.
We do.
Yeah, before we approve another host agreement, because we're at the place where we can stop, and maybe we'll go ahead,
Well,
Okay, I'm just gonna
okay, Kathleen,
maybe
go
we
ahead.
won't.
I'm just going to say I agree with Helen, and I was under the impression at our last town meeting that we did come to a consensus to limit the host agreements to 3. This would put us at the 20%, just over the 20% threshold, given with the state guidelines to match these with year-round alcoholic retail outlets here in Wellfleet. And now we've got 5 in the queue for a very small town, and I'm very uncomfortable with that number. But, here's a young man, born and raised here in Wellfleet, who owns the old former First National Bank in the center of Wellfleet, and he's local. He's not from Boca Raton. He's not from Florida. He's not from Vegas. And I'd like to see local people have an opportunity to get into this business. He's going to be the first out of the gate, and I'll tell you why. He's already got a retail license. He's already got security on the property with a vault that stayed in the basement of that bank. I'm going to suggest that we do hear his presentation, and after we hear his presentation, we can still consider these host agreements. The only consideration I have with this particular location is, if he is the first out of the gate, he's going to have to set up some sort of shuttle and off-site parking. This is what's going on in Wareham and in Northampton right now. They're running shuttle buses to these small retail outlets that are in villages and central districts and parking them off-site.
So I want to clarify for the audience and the board that the marijuana bylaw that was voted on and passed last year, it's titled Limitation on Number of Marijuana Dispensaries in Town, to see if the town will vote to amend the general bylaws to add the following new section 47 to Article 7 as follows. A, the number of licenses for registered retail marijuana establishments as defined by General Law, Chapter 94G, Section 1, may be limited or granted at the discretion of the Selectboard, serving as the licensing board, provided that the minimum number of establishments shall not be less than 20% of the number of such establishment liquor licenses presently issued within the town for the retail sale of alcoholic beverages. So we did not vote to limit anything. We voted to say that it is at our discretion. Okay, so that's what was voted on last year. And we still do have our discretion. We can be discreet anytime we want. The point is, and that this is what I'm saying, is the point we're at, is there are 5 businesses that are coming before us. We can give them a host agreement, but it doesn't mean they're going to get their license. I mean, literally all 5 of them could have, you can't be a felon. You can't be, again, the vetting process is really big. You've got to have the money. You've got to have, I think to get, to apply for a license is $30,000 or $50,000. Do you remember, Jan? Just to start the process is a lot of money. So my feeling at this point is that we have them come before us. I totally agree. Our next contestant. Our next applicant is, as Kathleen said, very local, and he's just been a little bit behind on his application, but he came to us over a year ago. About a year ago. Yes. So at this point, we have not voted to limit anything. Okay. So again, we can say first comes, first served. We can say 5 might be okay. Whatever. We can say anything we want, but we don't have to say it tonight.
Madam Chair?
Justina had her hand up first.
Okay.
As far as I could see.
Madam Chair, just quickly, in addition to all the great things you said, I think as someone who lived through the dot-com era and saw it crash, I'm seeing, I'm adding all up some of the estimates of the market, and at $25 to $30 million, it seems pretty optimistic. And I know California, it was in the banner, their first year of recreational marijuana sales, they saw it drop by $500 million. So ultimately, the market is also going to shake it out. And some of these, some of these out of town investor-funded groups, I think the local groups have an advantage in being more realistic about the market.
Yes, I would agree. I think the market is going to level off. So, Helen?
Yes. I completely support what Kathleen said about having people from here being able to have businesses here and continue to live here. At the same time, it is first come, first served, you see. So, wait, hold on 1 minute. Let me finish. And I'm glad that you read out our article. It is at our discretion, but I think that just in the same way that it's at the Zoning Board of Appeals' discretion as to whether something is detrimental to a neighborhood or not, we have to have criteria for having discretion. We can't just say, you, not you. We have to have reasons. And my reason typically is who came first. Now, I could see having 4, but we hadn't taken a look and talked about it, although right now, and I think it's germane to the agenda item. I don't think we're going outside of the scope. But I also want to know what commitment the host agreement really is. If we give a host agreement and then the state says, you go, you're okay, does that mean we have to have that business? Do you see what I'm saying? I think, Janet, that, the state will vet, the commission will vet, having this license granted. But my take on the host, the host agreement is that is our final commitment. Yeah. And I don't want to do that. I didn't want to do that until this board had really, this is our first opportunity to look at, do we want more than 3? Okay?
So I would ask Mr. Zender if he has an opinion on, is this, if we agree to a host agreement, I know that there is a commitment there, but we also have to look at what their ZBA design is, approval is. Yes, can I have your opinion on that, please?
I was under the understanding, I think you already have a license limitation in Wellfleet. Isn't it three retail? No, you don't. So
no.
Until you impose a limitation, there won't be one. I think a limitation is probably a good idea, but in addition to having a limitation on licenses, if you're going to have one, you have to have some rational method of determining how people are going to get those 3 licenses, whether it's first come, first served, first to get a zoning permit, first to get fully operational. The later you make that trigger point, the more unfair it is to the applicant, because it's not fair to have an applicant go through host community agreement, zoning, and CCC licensing and then be told that they're fourth in line. So I think it's just important that you as a board come up with what you think is the appropriate, whether you clock in your something with the town clerk by a certain date, you have to come up with some method of doing it. I do agree, I think, with some of the members that the market will shake it out. I also agree that there are only a certain number of locations in Wellfleet that are appropriate and suitable for retail activity. I haven't really looked at cultivation carefully in Wellfleet, but I think there are certain requirements for retail. You need to be somewhat insulated from residential neighborhoods. You need to have good traffic and good parking, and you need to realize that there are going to be impacts. But those are just thoughts.
Okay. No, thank you.
I hope they're helpful in some way.
They are.
So
I hear what everybody's saying, but I would like to open this up to Jason Robichaux and see how this goes. I mean, 5. We have 11 liquor stores.
We don't have 11 liquor stores.
We have 11 places you can buy alcohol.
Yeah,
so
but
anyhow,
some are just beer.
well, hey.
Still
Last
works.
time I heard, beer was alcohol. So anyhow, does the board feel that they can hear, that we can hear and allow Jason to present and move on with this? Yes? Yes?
So if I can just speak up, Jason came before you quite some time ago, and you gave direction to get a host community, the approval to get a host community agreement. And going back and looking to see who had signed host agreements, I realized we never finalized that with Jason. So I confirmed that with him, and then I asked him to come forward to you. Okay. So part of the delay is my fault that we didn't notice it before, that he should have been up
and
here.
I will say, too, I don't know if this has, Mr. Zender left, if this has anything to do with it. But again, Jason is local. He doesn't have big corporations behind him and funding him. And without getting into anything, was it easy for him to get the money for the applications? All those things we're not even going to talk about tonight. But he did come before us. I mean, it took you months just to get the application going. There aren't even that many lawyers around that do it. So
finding a lawyer is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Just to clarify, though, when I came before you the first time, I actually submitted a host community agreement at that time.
Okay.
Nobody
That's
signed
kind
it
of
and
what I
got it
thought.
back to me, so I actually
All right.
was one
Okay.
of the. I was
Good.
probably third in line to begin with.
Yeah, you were. Okay,
So then
let's,
when I heard from the administrator that you guys hadn't signed it, because I'd gotten lost in the mix of the application is literally it's about $5,000 for the application itself, but it's about $15,000 worth of lawyer's work to fill it out.
Yeah.
So it's been a really involved process in doing that, and my family and I are moving back into town, finally, the house I grew up in, but everything's gotten lost in the mix.
Yeah.
And then when I got the email, I was like, oh my gosh, I haven't gotten a host community agreement yet, my goodness.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I
yes.
didn't quite understand what Dan Hort said.
So Jason came before you?
No, I remember that.
Yep.
Did we vote on?
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we voted to approve it?
You voted to approve and go forward. What happens after that is then I go to our town council with the host community agreement and get it so that we've got one that's agreeable to everybody.
It's basically a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
but
I
that
already
al-
submitted one.
That
initially.
also
Already
means,
presented.
so, yes, well, the thing is that's why I was confused that you were coming back.
Yeah.
And in other words, have we now actually approved four host community?
This would be the fourth.
This would be
Well,
You've approved this one, but you haven't signed it, and that's why
Yeah,
it's in front
but
of you
if we
now.
vote to approve it, as far as I'm concerned, I know we have to sign it, but I'm not going to pull my signature after voting. So we actually have four. Okay. That's been cleared up in public.
Yeah.
May I add something as the fifth representative of the fifth?
So
You also voted.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah,
So, just so you know, because you'll be coming before us a lot now that you're in town, you have to raise your hand and request to be heard. Yes?
May I speak?
Will you state your name, please?
Zachary Ment, representative of the Old Bank LLC. I was at your last meeting and gave a presentation. I actually submitted that presentation back in February, and it took some time to come in front of you. And there was some discussion at that time that I would prefer to come back for this. It was approved unanimously by the board to negotiate the host agreement substantially the same as the ones that have been approved before, and that it would be signed at this meeting. And the agenda was full. So if you're saying that the approval happens at the presentation, then I would ask that I be given the same consideration.
Okay, so, yes. So Helen wants to limit right now the number of applicants of host agreements.
No,
Yes.
what
What do
I
you want?
wanted was to be sure that this board had had an adequate discussion as we moved beyond 3. Okay?
We've already moved beyond 3.
And we have discovered tonight that we have moved beyond 3. And through you to the gentleman in the back, having a presentation is not the same as us approving a host agreement. So,
Okay. So, yeah, so just wait. I want to kind of get through and see. So does the board, Jerry, would you like to say something?
I just think we ought to hear what Jason has to say
Yeah,
and get on with it.
I agree.
I
So,
think,
yeah.
no.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes.
I think, well, you can see how confused we're all here. Who's on first, what's on second, and third base is smoking a lot of marijuana. But to get more to the point here, Jason is, he did come before us. We did hear a presentation, and we did agree to a host community agreement with Jason. And I think one of the reasons we all did that, if I can recall, is because this was the one opportunity we had to give an individual local preference. We haven't had that with a lot of these larger investors and groups coming through town. And by not having that, you know, what kind of commitment do they have to us for the long run here? Are they just here to make the first $2 million and then see you later, bye? This is a kid that grew up here, and his family is, you know, been here all their lives. So it was a great thing to have be able to do this locally with him. So I think we've already voted the host agreement with Jason. We just need to do the signature and finalize it.
Yeah. We've heard all this,
Yeah.
and now it's repetitious now. So why don't we hear from Jason?
What else would you like to hear from me? I don't know if I have anything else to add to it other than I honestly hadn't realized that it hadn't gotten signed until I got the email, and then light bulbs went off in panic mode and saying, "Oh gosh, yeah, please submit that, go right ahead." But no, beyond that, it's we're moving forward with it. Although it's a process as far as the store is concerned, and renovating a house to move into now, which is next week. So that's what I'm covered in paint.
So I would like to suggest that we move to approve the community host agreement with Jason Robichaux and the Grateful Mind. I think next time we can put it on our agenda. I would like to encourage, what's your name again? Zach. Ment? What is it? Yeah. I just like to know names.
Zach Ment. Yeah.
Who is also has local connections. You can disagree with me, but tonight we're approving this or not approving it, and then we need to move on with criteria, and at our next meeting, we can decide how many host agreements we want, how many are already in the process, and what we're going to do, because we have said yes to 5 different businesses, and as you just heard, it's an expensive process and an important process, and I want to leave it at that.
Janet?
Yes.
Madam
I
Chair.
know you disagree.
No,
And
no,
Are you going to try
no.
to talk me into something else? Yeah, okay.
No, we
good.
have already voted on this host
Yeah,
agreement.
so let's have a motion.
No,
instead-
we have already voted on it. We
All
just
right.
have to sign it.
Okay.
And that is not the applicant's fault.
Okay, so.
Other thing,
Although I dropped the ball.
Yeah, no, so wait. The other thing that I want to say publicly, and it's important for us to be clear about this, yes, I would like to have local preference, but I'm not sure that we can do that legally.
Right.
In other words,
So
as a
we
criteria,
have, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that we can't say,
just
well,
got
you're
lucky.
not.
Yeah.
We got lucky, yes, but exactly, but we can't, in my opinion, I would like to hear from town council about this, but I don't think we can say, you're not
Okay.
from here, we don't want your business here.
No, we
We can't do that.
Right.
There's
So,
another, excuse me, Madam Chair, there's another town on the Cape, Helen, that did.
Yeah.
There's another town on the Cape that had local preference.
Okay.
They turned
Good.
down host agreements from outside, and they chose to go from, specifically, it was in the paper that they voted it on the grounds that it was local.
So
I believe Provincetown actually limited theirs in terms of who was going to be year-round versus seasonal.
Yeah.
And they gave preferential treatment to the year-rounders.
That, through you, that, in my opinion, is very different because it's offering more service. And I know there's local preference in our host agreements about hiring, right, which is another matter that's allowed by the state. In any case, it would be interesting to know.
I just have one more question.
Okay.
It'll be interesting to know what your parking situation is going to be and what your plan is going to be. I think the board should have that
in terms of
information.
the initial opening, I think based upon how things are rolling out in the state right now, which at best you're seeing one or two pop up or get approval basically because they're ready to go once every month or two. I mean, the Wareham one was one of the last ones I'd heard about opening up, and they've been it's such a slow process that I believe by the time I actually get through the queue, it's going to be like there's a liquor store on, a couple liquor stores in town. It shouldn't be as bad, but certainly I can work with Funk Bus and figure out a shuttle system. He's actually involved in the business as well, where he's working himself into a transportation side of the cannabis business. So.
Great.
He will be friendly to the business, but I can certainly make arrangements with Funk Bus and not have a problem on site. We're actually just talking with my parents now about potentially expanding the lower parking lot, which is really reclaiming land from a neighbor and putting a retaining wall and gaining maybe 4 extra parking spaces as well for the property. But we pretty much have more off-street parking than most businesses downtown.
Yeah, you do.
I have about 10 parking spaces, and that's more than most businesses. I mean, I'm pretty much competing with Mid-Cape as far as how much parking I have.
Yeah.
But no, I certainly obviously can work with the chief, and we'll figure out when it comes time, if it's crazy, we should be able to handle that. And I'm also working on some other aspects, speaking with somebody about doing more of a setup like there's a Salem shop that you make an appointment and you go to. You don't just show up. Doesn't obviously work year-round when things are swinging in the summertime, but for the most part, through an app that somebody can develop, I may very well be able to have it set up so I have scheduled appointments that show up to do what they need to do, and then maybe trickle in regular walk-in retail. But there's a lot of ideas, but I honestly don't even think that I'm going to have approval from the state because they have to physically inspect the site before you get your final sign-off. I think I'd be lucky if it was Christmas next year.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really know. Maybe things will start snowballing and it'll speed up, but right now it's trickling through. I mean, I go check the website and see through the CCC how many people are in the queue, and there's a long list.
Be a good Christmas present, I guess.
It would be great. Now, honestly, in talking to the chief just tonight, it would be really great if I did get a chance to open on the quiet side of things in Wellfleet, because at least then we get a chance to feel our way through it and figure out how it's all supposed to go. I mean, it's a crazy new world for me to jump into. So there's a lot. I mean, as far as building into the space where people come in and you can ID them before they can actually get into the store, and then unbelievable security systems and cameras and walk-in safes.
Yep. Okay, so can we all agree that we'll sign Jason's host agreement from last year?
I do need a motion for you to approve because this is
Okay.
a different host agreement than what was originally put in front of you. So.
Okay.
I move that we approve the host community agreement with Jason Robichaud as printed in tonight's agenda, doing business as the Grateful Mind at 15 Bank Street.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you.
And
Thank
Madam
you for being
Chair,
patient.
one note about
Yes.
the contract. Mr. Hort, so last time we looked at one of these contracts, which we seem to do almost every time we meet. In E on page 6, the verb engage should be allow. Remember, there was a discussion about that. That would be great.
Okay.
Because this just has the
Where are
people.
you?
Page 6, we talked about it last time. Page 6, E, limitations on other uses. The company agrees that it will not engage. In other words, what this says is that the business owners aren't going to, be using marijuana, but
You want it to
anybody
be
else
allow
can.
rather than engage.
Yeah, right. Just change the verb. We talked about it last time.
Which pretty much is an automatic revocation of your license from the CCC if you did something
Yes,
like
I
that.
know. That's why I think it would be good to
would be
have
a
it
no-no.
accurate.
Yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, to tell you about the California side of things, I don't think we're going to be in the same boat as California. The California revenue, as far as things have been concerned with the, it's become one of those things where I think California had a situation set up where people could grow legally and sell through stores and do things without any major licensing. And that went for so long that they became established and really rooted, and it's kind of hard to get what is now considered black market out of the game now that they had it for so long. So Massachusetts is putting the right foot forward, but still, I mean, even my target demographic is probably north of my age, because most people my age and younger are growing their own already at their houses, and they're not going to go buy it. So
That'll be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jason.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so just while we're thinking about it, you can put on the agenda for whatever it is, May, that we will discuss criteria.
Yep.
And no worries yet. Continue on. Okay. Becky Rosenberg, possible acceptance of a van donated to the Recreation Department.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Congratulations, Jerry.
Thank you.
So just briefly, if the Recreation Department can utilize the gifted van, even if it's just for 1 year, that the DPW recommends, it will enable us to gauge usage and be able to present an informed proposal for moving forward to best address the transportation issues needed to facilitate increased recreational programming. After documenting usage for a year, a cost analysis can be done to determine whether to recommend purchasing a new van or allocating funds to lease one when needed, and to explore grant and sponsorship opportunities to offset the cost. Increased access to transportation will enable more children to partake of existing excellent Outer Cape programs and facilities. It will enable the department to further the concept of a community center without walls, making it possible to continue to offer increased programming without the capital expense of a community center building.
So how many trips, is this summer and winter, this is year-round you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And how many trips, say, per week, or how many events do you take people to?
In the summertime,
many
we've been
times,
leasing the van for the past 5 summers to accommodate our extended recreation program, and in the summertime we use it every day of the summer program. It gets utilized in some fashion or another to transport children to different activities. We have never budgeted for use of a van in the wintertime, so I don't really have that information. I mean, occasionally we'll rent a bus at great expense, or it's extremely exorbitant expense to go to different events. Basketball. We've gone to college basketball games. We've gone to Inflatable Park in Yarmouth. We've done different trips, but the winter we don't really have. Because we've never really done small trips in the winter.
So through the
Off-season.
through the year, you do go pretty far, like you do go off Cape?
Well, I mean, we haven't really taken that kind of trip. We used to take a ski trip every year. Right before Christmas, we'd rent a bus and go to Stowe and for the weekend. But that became cost prohibitive because of the price of lift tickets went sky high. So we don't really take trips off Cape. The other towns, Eastham has a van, and they pick up the kids after school at Eastham Elementary, and they take them to just local venues in around the outer. They take them to our school to play games. They take them to the high school. That's really what we're envisioning for this, is to just pick the kids up at Wellfleet Elementary School after school, take them to Bakersfield, take them to Eastham to, swimming, take them to Preservation Hall, to the library. We're not envisioning using the van to drive them to Boston or something like that.
And is this a van you've already been using?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So,
any questions or
yeah,
comments?
I'm
from the board?
confused. So this same van that you've already been using is going to be donated?
Correct.
So somebody else owns it now?
Correct. It's owned by Nauset Regional High School, and they have been leasing it to us for the past 5 years in the summertime.
Okay, but it's, and I appreciate however it worked that the DPW got to take a look at it. It's got 130,000 miles on it, and, it needs repairs, and let's say we don't accept it, won't you be able to get a lease from a similar, in a similar way from Nauset? In other words,
More expensive.
do you see what I'm saying? In other words, I'm not sure that we should be accepting this van that Nauset is done with. How much does it cost to lease from Nauset? Does it cost anything?
They've been giving us a very good rate on these vans, but they just purchased new vans for their school. So we haven't approached them to ask them if they're even going to be leasing the new vans, and if they are leasing the new vans, how much they're leasing them for.
Can you give me a figure for that? In other words, what does it cost to lease from them? You said a good price, but
we've been paying $100 a week for the 7 weeks of the rec program.
So that's, $700, right?
Correct.
And there would be new vans, and we wouldn't have to take on an old vehicle that we would then have to fix. And, the two repairs that it needs are way over $700. We estimate those repairs, this is from the director of the DPW, to be in the range of $2,000 to $2,500. And they don't even have a mechanic. They can do it there, and there would be more of this. I want you to be able to get your kids to where they need to go. But it seems to me that you have a setup with Nauset that is working, and moreover, if they're getting new vans, it would be more dependable. You see, so I'm done.
Madam Chair, she said she didn't know they'd be leasing their brand-new vans out.
They might not lease them, yeah.
Well, may we find that out first?
May I hear from the,
Suzanne.
I know you're not, I'm trying to think, of what of your many titles do you fall under for this?
Tonight I'm the Director of Community Services. I would encourage the board to authorize the donation of the van for several reasons. I don't know, number one, as Becky said, we don't know if the Nauset region is considering leasing their brand new vans the way they have their old vans. It has 135,000 miles, probably take $3,000 to put it on the road. However, having done some market research this week, it's an average of $2,500 to $3,000 a month for the same size van on a retail lease. As a municipality, we might get a lower number than that, but I think for the cost of approximately 1 or 2 months lease, we need the van because there's a new expanded community center without walls collaboration going on between the recreation program and the Wellfleet Elementary School, where those facilities and spaces will be used 12 months a year. The Nauset vans would not be available those 12 months a year. So I would like to encourage you to take a leap of faith, authorize the donation, pay for it to be repaired, and see how the first winter goes.
Thank you. Kathleen?
I agree with Suzanne on this. I think this is a very inexpensive pilot program that we should try for the 12 months of the year for the rec department with this van. And, this gives them the opportunity to have it not just for 7 weeks that the rec is down at the Mayo Beach, but, for 12 months out of the year. And it needs some repair work, but, I'm hopeful that it'll serve you well.
Madam Chair?
Anyone else? I'm going to see if anyone else has a comment. Justina?
Yeah, I agree with Kathleen. I think that Becky's and Suzanne are being incredible in pioneering this use of the elementary school as a community center. And I know from raising children here in town, it's often the most at-risk kids whose parents can't drive their kids around who need these kinds of services. And the $130,000 miles on the van doesn't bother me at all. Cars and vans last longer nowadays, and 100,000 miles isn't a big deal. And I think this is between the free use of the facility of the elementary school and the thrifty van that's been donated. I think this is really budget friendly and innovative and should deserve our support.
So did you think at budget time of asking for a new van or a van that you have to pay for or anything like that? Because I would just prefer you having a safer van. What year is it, by the way?
I believe it's a 2006.
Yeah, okay. Did you think of buying a new van or?
Well, I mean,
Spending
that,
money on
like I stated before, we would like to just take this opportunity to use it as a pilot and see how much we use it. And if it does turn out to be cost effective, Suzanne and I will look at it and weigh the alternatives and present a proposal that makes sense. Owning a vehicle, like Helen said, is costly and it requires maintenance, and vehicles are meant to be driven, especially on the Cape. They're meant to be driven. So we want to make sure that we get the usage out of it and it does get driven. But what we're the proposals that we're putting forth to increase programming, the number one impediment is always the transportation issue.
Yeah, so I'm not arguing that you shouldn't have it. I'm saying you should have a better one.
Right. No, I appreciate that, and we'll definitely come forward with a proposal for
Frank?
Madam
Janet?
Chairman?
I'm sorry, I had my hand
Yes, Helen has my ear.
So what Suzanne said changes my perspective. And I would have liked to have known whether Nauset would, lease the new ones at this meeting, just to have that number to compare. But if it's just for a year, let's see how it goes. I just, hope it doesn't break down getting people to things they want to go to,
Madam Chairman?
I agree with the chair about, best case scenario, we get a nice new one.
Oh,
Okay.
For the record, Becky, mine's a
Jerry,
1990.
I think we need one sleepover. Before you leave, I think you should just stay here all night.
Madam Chairman, I move that we accept the van that's been donated to the Recreation Committee.
Second.
All in favor? Any comments from the audience? Too late.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good luck. And now, is Lydia going to present to the zero waste policy? And Dick? Okay.
Christine.
Oh, Christine, okay.
Right guys got a long way to go yet.
Different thing. Where do you see this?
Lydia's presenting and I'm handling the props.
I love props.
So I'm Lydia Vivante of the Wellfleet Recycling Committee with Christine Shreves, and thank you for this opportunity. Wellfleet already has a policy on purchase of recycled goods. It was instituted in 1988, and it's been revised over the years. The last time was 2009. But we'd like the town to consider doing zero waste instead, a zero waste policy proposal. It's 10 years after the original policy. In recognition of the need to make more efficient use of our natural resources, reduce solid waste volume and disposal costs, create markets for the materials collected in recycling programs, and serve as a model for private and public institutions, the town of Wellfleet is committed to a zero waste policy that will phase out single-use products. Wellfleet will instead focus on environmentally friendly products, and we have some examples here in the community cutlery program. You can borrow, we think we have about 75 of these.
60, yeah.
They're cotton napkins, they're all brand new, and so those could be loaned out. They have been loaned out to some town meetings, one recently at Preservation Hall that was sponsored by the Health and Conservation Department and the Cape Cod Commission. We also have about 300 forks, knives, and spoons. Those were used at the Wellfleet Elementary School spaghetti supper the other night, and they're also available for the public to borrow really any time. There's other things as well, like a large drink dispenser. We're really excited that the town has great town water, some of the best on the Cape. And here at the senior center, there's a water bottle filler outside and water fountain. I looked at the counter on the unit, and it's already 3,133 bottles filled. So that means, if you think about all those plastic bottles, that could have been there. So we're hoping that you'll consider this proposal. It has parts for the kitchen, like phasing out single-use disposable cups, plates, forks, etc., and making sure that the priority procurement for 100% recycled content, things that are compostable as well. So this is all something that would happen within the town buildings and town procurement, not commercial, not the individual, but the town. Yep.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So this is a proposal. This is not a select board policy, because in order to have it be a policy, we have to go through a series of steps. Sounds good, except there are parts of it in the office that are really, in my opinion, not good.
Okay.
At all, and they're actually exclusionary. We already have a lot that comes to, let's say, this board electronically.
Mm-hmm.
But there are people that don't have computers or who have limited access to computers, and legally they should be given the same opportunity to look at material until all of us that haven't grown up with computers die off. And even so, there are things like, okay, it's good to have, for example, the motion on one side of the paper and then the rest of that agenda item, with that. But to have everything be double-sided is actually hell. And wait, recycle latex paint, through you, Madam Chair, to the professional at the table.
Yeah.
Recycle latex paint. I wouldn't paint my house with it, but what's
No,
your...
but other people would.
Oh, it's the most environmentally friendly product out there now. Oil-based paints are not good for the environment.
No, I mean recycled.
It's really good.
Yeah? It holds up?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay.
There is a company that has been a nonprofit, I believe, that has been producing recycled paints, and it's on the state contracts. It's been used on the Cape by various departments and municipalities.
I just want to point out to Ms. Wilson that it doesn't say that text messages and emails are mandatory. It says encourage town boards, encourage departments. So I think everybody here knows that not everybody has a computer or is available, and that using common sense, we would print things up that are necessary to print up.
For people who need it, and
Oh,
I've
yeah.
had the
Yeah.
experience on boards and committees where, however, there have been people who have not gotten things in time because of that.
Right.
Right.
It's just encouraging the town government to use less paper and to think about single use and disposability of things, you know.
I mean, look at what I got before me tonight,
Yeah,
you know, it's
it's a lot.
ridiculous. So I say just let's move on this.
Yeah, I just wanted to make one point, is that the
Okay.
Truro Select Board has gone to electronic only, and they're issued tablets so
Yeah.
that they can
Well-
view the materials.
It should be optional.
But it's
you know.
optional.
Yeah. Kathleen?
This is one of those, progressive, feel-good things that, towns like Weston and Brookline and Cambridge, everybody's doing this. I don't want to not do this. I think it's great. Let's move on it.
Make a motion.
I move to approve the zero waste policy recommended by the Wellfleet Recycling Committee as printed and amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank
So
you. Thank you
through-
for working hard on this.
Madam-
I keep forgetting any comments from the audience. Okay.
Madam Chair, can I just ask the town administrator? So we just voted to do something. It's not a policy, it's not a bylaw, but is that enough of a direction so that it can be implemented?
Yes.
Okay.
Much of this we do already.
Yeah.
But it's good to have a reminder to our staff of just to always try to cut down on usage.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Where are we? We are now at the request from the Energy Committee for the revised charge.
Thank you, Dick Elkin, Chairman of the Energy Committee. This effort grew out of a gap analysis between what we are currently charged with and what the 2018 draft of the comprehensive plan said. We looked at the section 10, which was called climate change, and that's where all of our material was that we had drafted in under the goals of the Energy Committee, but there was additional material, all of which we felt very strongly we were supportive of, but then the question arose who was responsible for it, because I think it was inserted by the authors of the document in the hope that someone would do it. And we said, yes, we think we can. So this is a motion, and it differs slightly from the original draft after discussions with people on the board, that we'd like the name to be the Energy and Climate Action Committee rather than Climate Change Committee, and all the wording in the original draft that said climate change should be climate action. The difference in wording comes from the extra wording in the comprehensive plan and some of the wording from the Global Covenant of Mayors, which was approved by this board in terms of action and energy reduction throughout the town. But fundamentally, it's the same. We're just expanding the charter to step up. When we begin to do climate mitigation activities or remediate protective activities, there's no place that falls, but a lot of boards have some interest in it. And as we have talked about that, I added B, C, D, E, and F for the number of committees with a partial interest. It may not be exhaustive, but as people come forward, we're glad to get as much cooperation. So to summarize, I think we need 2 more people on the committee because this is an additional effort and people are involved. And so we would change the committee's name, change the committee's size to be 7 members instead of 5, and then add these 2 extra bullets and a lot of coordination to the committee's charge.
And you're also adding 2 alternates.
The 2 alternates already exist, although one is not
Okay.
filled. But we do have
Okay.
2 alternate
Okay.
positions.
I see you. Okay. Okay. Good. Well, I think this is great that you are growing and taking care of business that's going to be needed to be taken care of, and it's kind of a big part of our future. Are there any questions from the board, comments from the board, from the audience? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I move to change the name of the Wellfleet Energy Committee to the Wellfleet Energy and Climate Change Committee.
No, Climate Action Committee.
I'm just reading what's here.
I know, but he said, so he changed it to Climate Action.
Got it. It's a
Throughout.
Yeah. Climate Action Committee, increase the committee membership to 7 members and 2 alternates, and modify its charge as shown below in the document submitted to us this evening.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, thank you.
For viewers at home, they will note that this is also in the town meeting warrant, and because the select board have done this, when it comes up at town meeting, we will ask to indefinitely postpone this because it's already been taken care of then.
And a point of Mr. Elkin. I believe that Mr. Elkin. I believe that because it's a petitioned article, please ask Joe that somebody who has petitioned it has to be able to do that. So please check with Mr. Powers about that.
She's not going to be here for the Hilda Trust discussion.
I have discussed it with the moderator, and under the motion for this article, I will note that it's been passed over because it's been taken care of, and appeal for 2 more people to join the board.
Thank you.
The committee.
Good, thank you. Okay, so this is where it's getting late, and I want to ask the audience if they're here for a specific agenda item. Okay, anybody here that we could change the order of the agenda? Okay, good, because all right. So now we'll move on to the create a gift fund for town purchase of Hilda Trust land. Anybody want to speak to that?
Through you to the town administrator. So, in other words, this would be open now so that if it passes at the ballot, that article passes to purchase the land, and it passes at annual town meeting, that then the fund would already be ready to accept donations.
That is correct.
Yes, and there are a number of donations, including the anonymous donors, which is the only solid one we have. Is that correct?
That is also correct.
Okay, thank you. Can I make a motion? Or do we want
I don't
to
even
talk?
know if we need a motion. I think we just,
You do need a motion
no,
to
okay.
establish the gift fund.
Yeah.
all right. Okay, yes, so you may make a motion. Any questions from the audience? Okay.
Pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53A, I move to
Okay.
establish a special gift fund to receive donations and other revenue for the purchase of the land from the Hilda Trust, the proceeds of which shall be used without further appropriation under the supervision of the town administrator and the Board of Selectmen.
Second.
All in favor? Okay, so that passes, carries. Okay, moving on to the approval of the Eversource petition for the conduit at Old Kings Highway. This is just to move a conduit from, I think, pretty much one side of the road to the other side of a driveway. So, anybody else need other explanations? Okay, any questions from the audience, comments? May I have a motion?
I move to allow Eversource Energy to install conduit on Old Kings Highway.
Second?
All in favor? Okay, unanimous, thank you. And now we have the, going on to business, approval of contract for restroom cleaning. Anyone here from Perfect Cleaning, or does it matter?
I move to approve the contract with Perfect Cleaning for restroom cleaning and to authorize the town administrator to sign the contract. This is the same people that have been cleaning our bathrooms on the beaches and that, and ponds for quite a few years now. And it's my understanding they do a good job.
Any other questions or comments?
Second.
Okay, he didn't move, but,
Yeah, he did.
he did move. Okay, good, okay, yes, second, all in favor? Thank you. And now approval of contract for Vadar accounting software. Any questions, comments on that?
Oh, yeah.
From the board? Okay.
I will just tell you that this is being paid for by a grant received from the state, a community compact grant that we received to upgrade our accounting software.
Great.
So just a question?
Mm-hmm.
So you are the financial whiz, and I'm sure, just with respect for, there was a change a while back before you came, and it threw staff into, it was not pretty. And it was really not pretty what happened. So is this going to make it better? And how many people are going to have to be retrained?
So our assessor, our collector, and our treasurer all currently use this software.
Oh.
So they've already had experience with this software. The only thing that we're doing is changing it over for our accounting department. And our previous town accountant and our assistant town accountant were both involved in this decision when we made the decision of which one to go with.
Thank you.
Sure.
Great, good. Any other questions from the audience? May I have a motion?
I move to approve the contract with Vadar for the new accounting software and to authorize the town administrator to sign the contract.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. And now we have the approval for contract for portable restrooms with M.A. Fraser. Any comments or questions from the board?
So does this go out to bid?
You know, Mr. Houck brought this up before, is last year it went out to bid through the county.
Yeah.
This year we did it going out to bid ourselves. So we submitted it, we put it out to procurement so that we could get exactly what we wanted for it this time.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good job.
Any questions from the audience? May I have a motion?
I move to approve the contract with M.A. Fraser for portable restrooms and to authorize the town administrator to sign the contract.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Thank you, unanimous. Okay, we will move on. There are no select board reports because select board would know that they have to submit them before the packet. Town administrators report. Any questions or comments? Kathleen?
On April the 6th, how did your coffee go? What was the turnout?
You know, I would say there were probably maybe 30 to 40 people there. It was a really good meeting.
Good.
Because a lot of people had experiences in certain areas and had done some research already, so it was a good conversation of not me just saying what I thought, but people who had read something and were able to bring something forward. So I was really happy with how it went.
And were you able to answer a lot of questions for?
I think so.
Good.
We were able to answer a lot of questions. It helps because I've had experience as a B&B owner of knowing how you file. So when people asked about how you would actually file to submit your taxes, I could actually give them an experience on that. So,
Thank you, Dan.
Sure.
Any other comments on the town administrator's report? Okay, thank you. And then topics for future discussion. Anybody have any?
Yes. I do.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at you, not saying anything. Go ahead.
I just think for your future concerns, I think at some point in time that the board needs to look at hiring a town planner.
Yeah.
And maybe the Cape Cod Commission can help out in that. And I think down at the marina, somewhere along besides the Shellfish Shack, which I'm hoping will give a lot of information to tourists, that if we ever buy 3 Kendrick Avenue, that we could put in board, like informational boards, some kind of park thing, so when people, with information for plays and all kinds of information for other areas, because people go down there now, there's nothing there. I mean,
Yeah,
you go
I
down,
agree,
you got
yeah.
this, you have, the Dairy Queen, or whatever they call it. I also think if you look at the Cape Cod Times, maybe a couple weeks ago, of all the dredging projects that the county has on their agenda, there are many, many dredging projects. I know they're looking at buying a new county dredge, but Wellfleet, of all the towns, Wellfleet was the only town omitted on that in the thing. So I think maybe with a little more research, and maybe you need to consider buying our own dredge at some point.
So this has been discussed a lot of time, many times, with
Yeah.
you and with the board and with the dredging committee and with the county commission. Wellfleet wasn't on the list probably because we're not going to be ready for the county dredge for at least 2 years or so.
Well, by the time
But
they get around to
They
Wellfleet,
they know. Jack Units, he
I'm
knows.
just saying, by
yeah.
the time they get around, Janet, to all the
Yeah.
projects that they have currently on their list, it's going to be more than 2 years before they ever get to Wellfleet.
Yeah.
The other thing
So,
I just
yeah,
want to say is people using town property. You're always looking for money somewhere, and I think that people that use town property, I know that there are certain fees that are charged, and I think maybe you'll look at the fees again, but I think people using town property, and I can think of at least one or two, they need to pay rent. And they're not paying rent right now using town property. And they're benefiting from that. And I think that we need to look at that, to raise money. And there are other issues that I think, I'm not going to be here, but I'm just throwing this out. We're all of you who are so lucky to be here, that down the road, you might just look at some of these issues,
Yeah.
I know there's a lot on our plate this year, and there's probably going to be a lot on our plate in the next couple of years, but that doesn't mean you can't plan things.
Well, I hope you will keep our emails or our phone numbers, and when you have an idea or a comment, to please let us know, or even better yet, come to our meetings. But really, you have a lot, and keep it going, But all of those are very good. And yeah, I said last week that, last meeting, that I would have getting a town planner as my only goal this year. And we will try to use the Cape Cod Commission, who has gratefully offered it. Okay, so now we are done, right? We have to approve the minutes.
Correspondence and minutes.
Oh, yeah, correspondence.
Everybody saw that Ron Beatty encouraged us to have a commentary on shark and seal population control.
Yes, and that'll happen at town meeting or so. Any other correspondence or vacancy reports?
Yeah,
comments?
I'm wondering if you remember, we got correspondence from, excuse me, Eversource previously. And I'm wondering if the Health and Conservation Department, I would like to know from them what their follow-up was about identifying the wells, both the private wells and the larger wells that were required in that piece of correspondence from Eversource.
So what are you referring to?
If you remember, I drafted and we signed a letter to Eversource weighing in once again on the fact that the town really does not like it when they spray on the power lines.
Oh, okay, that's what I wanted to know. I didn't know what you were referring to. So you're talking about the herbicide.
But the most
spray.
important part of that piece of correspondence was that the Health Conservation Department had to weigh in on where all the private wells are. And I would love to see a copy of that, just to see how that went.
Was they identified?
Yeah, in other words, our correspondence to Eversource was a joint effort, and different parts of us had to weigh in on it. And we've had a lot going on, and we sort of, in 2009, the whole town was up on its hind legs about this, and everybody wrote letters, and it's still going on, and we haven't weighed in particularly. So that's the only reason I'm bringing it up.
Okay, so
Yeah.
have town administrator
Yeah,
follow
just
up
to
on
see,
that.
it would be
Okay.
great to have that in our correspondence file, just to see what they submitted.
All right. Any other correspondence? Vacancies? Okay, moving on to minutes.
So
You're on, Helen.
Well, here's the thing, checking in with Courtney. Courtney has everything I submitted to her, but for the last week, I couldn't really see until 3 days ago. So she got everything, I did it, but we don't have our copies in here, and, we'll get them next time. Yeah, yeah.
So I was under the understanding that you were providing me amendments.
I did.
Yes, and then everybody else was kind of okay with that, and we were just going to.
Oh, no.
So you still need me to reprint them up with the amendments in red for everybody?
Oh, yeah.
I found mine.
Okay, yeah, so you have the one, so last week, all the copies from last week are just ones that without your amendments.
Yeah, but
So-
the ones with amendments are what we
I
all
have
have
them,
to have in
yeah.
a packet, but we can do it next time. Yeah.
Okay.
That
there's
was-
a pile
So
up
I
of
want to get
minutes.
this, I just want to make sure I'm clear before we go
So-
forward with this again, because had I known that, I wouldn't have put all of this in there, there for this week. I would have just put in, because I thought I thought last time we discussed that you could just give the go-ahead.
Oh, no.
For-
No.
And I would post them approved with the amendments in red. So the
No.
amendments would be in red, and they'd be posted that way.
No,
Is that-
and this is
That's what
just,
Joe had said we could do.
no, actually, we can't. We have to vote on it.
Okay,
So
so you
they
guys,
vote
so you
on-
guys can have this discussion
Yeah.
later.
Next time.
Helen.
Fine.
So we have, again, all this paper, all the minutes that have been reprinted. So what I would like is that next time, next meeting, when we approve these, unless the board really wants new copies with the red in it, that Helen or Courtney shows us the red and reads off the red, and we correct them on our own
Yeah, that's what I
copies.
thought
We
we
don't
would
need,
do.
we do not need all of this redone with red amendments. Is that fine?
Right.
You may have the red amendment and read it off, and read off from it.
Okay.
Well, the whole reason to have Helen give Courtney her changes so that we didn't have to
Go through them.
Yeah.
sit and go through it. Maybe we could all look at it on our screens at home and make sure we're fine.
And, well, I'm just saying, we make the amendments in public. We read the amendments, and we correct them on our own. So keep this packet, and right, because the public needs to know what the amendments are.
Well, they would know the amendments because when they get posted online, it says amendments in red at the top, and all of the amendments are in red. So I spoke to Joe Powers about this, and I can clarify with him again, but he did say that we don't have to sit here and go through everything.
No, we don't.
We don't have to amend it line by line in real time.
No. Janet?
Well, except for that,
just need to
we're
vote to
then
approve
back
them as
to
amended by Helen.
people with access.
Madam Chair?
Wait, we have people with access that don't go online, and that you're listening to the TV and you're hearing the amendments.
Madam
So,
Chair?
yes.
Here's the thing. Quite some time ago, before Courtney joined us, I would go through the minutes, and others of us could go through the minutes too, and I'd change the typos, just do it in black, so I was just copy editing. Anything substantive that I wanted to amend, I submitted in a timely fashion to Radu or Michaela. And so what we got in our packets was the minutes with the amendments that I was going to bring up in red. And then my eyes started going south, and I started just handing you, a kind of highlighted copy, okay? And then after I'd read them off in public. It's time-saving for us to get the one copy with the amendments in red in our packet so we can read through them and also add our own amendments. And the thing about recycling paper is it's clean and it does recycle very well, unlike so many other things. I don't like killing trees either, but a lot of this paper, most of it gets recycled into something else. So that's the way it used to work, and it used to work well. But we do have to vote on something in public, and it is when you print the packet with the red things in it from me or something from somebody else, right? Could be in there. Then they get to read it, electronically if they want to.
So what are you saying?
Let's go back to the way we used to do it. It used to be very efficient.
Which is, Helen will provide me her amendments. That
So
is
what are we
you'll
gonna-
get in the packet. In the packet, you will get my draft with Helen's amendments in red, and that's what will be voted on, correct?
Yes, or
Then-
anybody,
all right, okay.
or
That's
anybody
it.
else.
So we're not voting on anything again tonight?
Okay.
Okay.
So we're postponing the minutes from 2 months, right? It's been since
no.
February. Yeah, yes.
No, we approved some from back.
I don't think we did, no.
No,
It's been
there's
since
6 up
February
for
12th. We haven't
stacked
approved the
up, yeah.
minutes, so.
Okay.
Minutes
I
even
get
in-
it,
I'm
but,
sorry.
no, I'm just saying, I get it, but
Yeah, it's not good.
it's not good.
To be released.
Yeah.
Minutes in draft form are available to anyone
That's
who would
true.
like them.
Okay.
So if anybody
They
wants
are.
a copy of the minutes from any of these meetings that haven't been approved, we're happy to distribute them. to
Okay,
them, so.
thank you for the clarification. Okay, so were you guys here for the executive session or anything, or for Hilda? Okay, you're just there. Good. So you're thinking of getting on a committee?
Not anymore. No.
What? Yeah. Yeah, good, good. It is, yeah.
When you were asking about things for future,
Mm-hmm.
can I suggest that maybe you consider finding a more prominent position for your Chamber of Commerce, other than down in the pit by the old general store? I mean, if it was
So, okay, I'm going to stop you there, which is fine. Chamber of Commerce has nothing to do with the town. They're a separate organization. Yeah, and if they were, yeah, not, yeah, but good. And anytime you want to say something like that, again, you can just email bos@wellfleet-gov, and we all get them. But those are good suggestions. And somebody else made a suggestion about the chamber in correspondence, suggest having a good suggestion. I can't remember it. Okay, so may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Madam
There a
Chairman.
second? Yes.
I need you to move and go into
We
executive
are,
session.
I'm moving to adjourn first and then go in? Do I still have it right?
Just before you adjourn,
Okay.
once again, I want to thank all of you
Oh,
for your kindnesses and for listening to me some of the time. I want to thank Dan for his insight and Courtney for her good work that she does also. So thank you all, and good luck to you.
Well, thank you, and I do hope we'll see you at town meeting, right? You're not out of here yet, right?
Well, I don't know if I'll be there or not.
Oh, no, Jerry, come on.
No, I'm just-
You're going to come.
In honor of Jerry, we have nothing for anyone to sign this evening.
Oh, so good.
Just Janet.
Okay. Okay, so there's a motion on the table to adjourn.
Second.
Is there a second? All in favor?